Morning, everyone. Hi. Happy Monday. Hello there. Nice to see all your faces this morning. Hope everybody had a nice weekend. All right. Okay. Welcome. All righty. Well, thank you for joining us today. Hi, Karen. Um, I can't believe it. Today is our sixth online support group leader training that we've had since early April. So as we've been adjusting to being at home during the COVID situation, and we've been hopefully meeting with our support groups online. And wow, yes, six trainings in. So if you are new to us today, welcome. My name is Shannon Elliott, and I'm the manager of our support group leader network called In Sync here at PMD Alliance. And I have a couple of colleagues joining me today. I've got Rebecca, and she's going to be helping with any technical issues, as well as Rachel. If you could, yeah, there's Rachel. Thank you for doing tech backup for me today. So they're always available for technical questions, and you can chat with them directly if you need to. So today we are going to be covering how to use the Zoom platform on a smartphone, which is something that a number of you had asked us to address. And it is really good information for you to know and to be able to share with your group members. And I'm going to point out a couple of things in regards to today's training. First of all, the focus of the session is on how to easily attend a Zoom meeting on a smartphone. And that's opposed to you as a support group leader trying to run a meeting on a smartphone. So just to understand the difference for that. And also, I personally own Apple iPhones. So the tutorial today will show images from my iPhone rather than an Android, although I am told that most of the functions settings that we're going to go through today are very similar to each other on the iPhone and the Android. So we can address specific questions if necessary. And today's training will only be 1 hour in length, so we have a lot to go through, a lot of dense slides to cover, but I want to go ahead and get started so we have time for questions at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you, and we can get going here. Okay, so hopefully we can see it. Is that coming through, Rachel? I can see. Okay, good, excellent. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get started. So the very first thing we need to do on a smartphone is to make sure that the Zoom application is actually downloaded onto your phone. And I'm suggesting here that that happens on a day prior to the meeting day so that there's not a lot of kerfuffle and, just like if, you don't want to miss the meeting, if it takes you a little bit longer to figure out how to download the app, just go ahead and do that on a different day. And so that you're prepared to join the meeting when it starts. At the top here, I said the Apple iPhone is pictured here just to remind you that it's not an Android. Okay, so to download your Zoom app, you're going to look for your app store if you're on an iPhone, and if you're on an Android, it will be your Google Play Store. Which you will have to sign in with your Google account. So I circled here the App Store just to help you find it on your screen. Sometimes there are many things to look through. So that's what that looks like. And then down here, this PowerPoint will be shared with you as a PDF after the fact. And so if you do happen to have an Android or someone does, you can follow this link here if you need a little bit more specific information on how to download an app from the Google Play Store. Okay, so once you have opened your app store, you're going to look for a search and like a little magnifying glass. It's in the bottom right-hand corner. So once you hit that, then this screen here pops up. There's an ability to type in what you're looking for as far as apps in the store. And so you're going to type in Zoom Zoom.us, and you're going to do that right up there at the top in that search bar. And then you're going to see a drop-down menu. So you might notice that I've started to type in Zoom, and then that Zoom.us will start to show up. It will kind of auto-populate, and so you're going to tap on that when you see it. And once you do that, it's going to load the applications that have Zoom in the title. So what we're looking for specifically is the Zoom Cloud Meetings app, and that's found here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to tap on the cloud symbol right next to it, and that's going to prompt you. A new window will come up. It's going to say install, and then enter. You're going to have to enter your Apple ID password, and that's just a safety thing on your phones, just so that you don't accidentally download things you don't want to. They just want to make sure it's you, that sort of thing. So it's just a little security measure. And then once you have clicked on that or tapped on the cloud, you'll notice this symbol here. And so I've said is that it's like a tracing circle. And so that's how you can tell that the app is actually downloading, and it might take a minute or two for that to happen. And then finally, you're going to see an open option. This open button pops up, and that means that it's fully downloaded, but you're going to have to tap on it in order for you to open and actually launch the app. So let me see, there we go. Yeah, so it's that open button there that you want to tap on. Okay. Alrighty, so once you have your Zoom app downloaded onto your phone, then you're going to want to join the meeting. And so you have two options to do that, and I'll go through each option right now. So this first one is joining the meeting with an email link. So those of you who are using Zoom, and some of you are using our Pro Zoom account at PMD Alliance, some of you have your own Zoom accounts, but you're likely sending out invitation emails to your group members, which include a Zoom link that is, you can tap on it or click on it on your computer, and it takes people right to that correct meeting ID room. So that's what I'm speaking of here when I say the email link. So at meeting time, you're going to be tapping on the Zoom app on your phone to open it. And to the left there, you'll see what that looks like on your phone. And so you can locate that very easily. When you hit that Zoom app, this is the window that pops up, the screen that pops up on your phone. So it says start a meeting, and then what you're going to do is join a meeting here. Okay. The next step is if you received that meeting invitation link by email, which is usually sent by the support group leaders, like I just mentioned, you can simply tap on the link to join the meeting. And so I just want to point that message out right here, and this is just a reminder. So if you received an invitation link, tap on the link again to join the meeting. All right, so people might get confused here and say, well, how do I get to my email? How do I find that link again? So what you're going to want to do is you need to escape Zoom for a moment. So on my iPhone, at the bottom of the front of my screen, I have that little home button. So it's like a little round button that I hit, and it'll help me escape from any application that I happen to be in. So that's what I would do. I would escape by hitting my home button, and then I would search for my email inbox. So hopefully people know where to find that they can open their email, find the invitation email that came from you, and then they're going to locate that blue Zoom link and tap on it. So that is located here, and that is exactly what they're going to tap on in order to open the Zoom meeting. Okay, hopefully this is making sense so far. So keep track of your questions, and we'll answer those in a little bit if you have them. I'm going to keep on moving. So our second option to join the meeting, it starts the same way. So you're going to find that Zoom app, locate that icon with the video camera, and then you're going to join the meeting by clicking on that blue button there. Okay, so the second option involves physically typing in the meeting ID that you received for this particular meeting. So this is where you would enter it. So I'm going to point that again to you. So you see where the cursor is up here. You're going to use the keypad that shows up on the screen of your phone, and then you're going to enter it there. And it's usually 9 to 11 digits, and that just has to be physically typed in. So I'm going to go back to the previous screen just for one moment to show you. So this is the link that we clicked on before. That's one option. Now, right below that, you'll see that meeting ID, and you'll see that it looks like 9 digits right there. So somebody could potentially write down on a Post-it note, that 9-digit number, have it next to them, in front of them, on their desktop or on their desk before they get into the meeting, and so they know exactly what to enter when it comes to that point in the process. Okay, so they're going to enter their meeting ID here, and then they're going to select join. They're going to tap on join. And then a password box will likely come up, because a lot of times our Zoom meetings have passwords to enter. And so that's where they would enter the password, which is again in that invitation email that you have provided them. So with both options, 1 and 2, what happens next is you'll see a video preview screen, and then some permission screens will pop up. And this is especially the first time that you're going to be opening Zoom, for the very first time you open that application. It's going to ask you what you want it to allow it to do. So you'll notice here what popped up here. Zoom would like to access the camera. For people to see you during meetings, Zoom needs to access your camera. So what you would be clicking on and tapping on is OK. And that's going to say, OK, Zoom, I allow you to use my camera so that people can see me during the meeting. Now there's likely going to be another permission screen for a microphone, and so you would have to again click OK. I give you permission to use my microphone so I can be heard. When I put the Zoom application on my phone, another permission screen popped up saying, would you allow notifications from Zoom? I actually said don't allow, because I don't want to have a lot of extra notifications coming up on my screen from this app. That's not necessary, but we do need to allow the camera to have access and the microphone. So that's a really big one. So when people sometimes have problems, they've joined a meeting and then you can't see them or you can't hear them, it's because they've probably on accident they've clicked this don't allow because they weren't quite sure what they were clicking on. All right, so that's just something to note. Okay, so moving on, connecting your audio to the meeting. So we have 2 options to do that. So the first option, once you said, yes, I agree, you can use the camera, you can use the microphone, then this is what will happen next. You'll see this video preview. This is still before you've actually entered the meeting. And you're going to tap on the Join with Video button right there. Now you have a choice, 2 different choices regarding audio. Now, if you are on your home Wi-Fi internet, then what you're going to do is tap on the Call Using Internet Video button, and then your audio will be connected and it'll take you to the meeting that way. Okay? Or this is option 2. Say you are away from home, you're just using cell service. You're going to want to select the other option, which is dial in. Okay, so you'll hit dial in, and then below right here, this is the screen that pops up if you choose dial in. Okay, now from there you're going to see all these phone numbers. There are 6 of them there, and that's just because Zoom is so busy. They have so many people joining calls that they just have many options to access. It doesn't matter which of those phone numbers you choose. You can just, you want to tap on that blue phone symbol that's to the right of any of those phone numbers. And what happens next is this pop-up window comes up. So, would you like to dial into the meeting automatically? After dialing into the meeting, please return to Zoom. So on that little screen there, you're going to tap on dial. From there, you see at the bottom of the screen here, this call, and then there's the phone number, and then what it does is that it automatically senses the meeting ID, and then there's like a participant number, which is not important after the fact. So that pops up right there. So what you want to do is go ahead and click on that, tap on that, and you're going to let all of those numbers automatically enter, and they just do it by themselves. So you don't have to enter anything in, which is really handy. And then once you're connected, a little box pops up, says tap the next, instruction here says tap the next pop-up box to return to the Zoom meeting. You will be connected with video and audio. So you'll see that at the top. You are connected to meeting audio. Tap here to return, and you're tapping there to return basically to the view of the meeting so that you can see the other people. So you're not looking at your phone screen here. You're going to be going back into your Zoom meeting. So hopefully that's all good. Let's see, Rachel, I guess I'll check in with you. I don't know if anyone's typed anything into the chat. Okay, hopefully so far so good. Keep track of your questions. All right, so once you're inside the Zoom meeting, this is what you're going to see. So the home view is what I'm calling it, will be a view of the speaker and then your thumbnail. Okay, so this is Dr. Espay right here, and he's the one who's currently speaking, and so he is large on the screen. And then there's a little thumbnail of yourself at the top right-hand corner. Okay. Now you have the ability to navigate between screens on your phone. So if you're if you're familiar with phones at all, you probably understand the action of swiping. So you're usually taking two fingers, and if I'm saying swipe right, I'm swiping my fingers from left to right, okay? And then it's the opposite. You can say swipe left, you start right and then go left, all right? So if you swipe right all the way, then you're going to get to a mode called safe driving mode, okay? And this is what that looks like. So it says your microphone is muted, your video is stopped. So what happens is your microphone isn't on no matter what. They cannot see you and you cannot see them. All right, it's doing its best, like even if you're on a meeting, to eliminate any distractions if you do have to be driving or doing something else at the same time. So if you do need to speak, all you have to do is hit that tap to speak button. It's not a hold down thing. You would just tap it and then it allows you to speak, okay? So that you wouldn't have to hold it and drive, if that makes sense. So all you're doing is tapping. And I'm going to point this out to you at the bottom. You might notice this little white dot and these options here. So in my mind, the way I like to think about it is kind of like it's like a book, you know, and so if say each of these dots here is like a page in a book, and so I can go forward and backward in this book. So the safe driving mode is all the way like on the first page of the book, yeah. And I'll note over here on this first view, the speaker view that I'm calling it, you're going to enter that meeting, and it's like the second page, okay? So you would have to swipe right to get to the first page for safe driving mode, and then if you were to go the other direction, you're going to start to see the participants who are in this meeting, okay? So once you start swiping left, you're going to be going down all the pages, and you're going to be able to see all the different people in the meeting, okay? So you're only able to see 4 people at a time on a phone because it is such a smaller format than your computer screen. You're not going to be able to see many faces. You're just going to have to see 4 at a time, and then you can continue to swipe left, and then you will go through what I'm calling the pages in your book right here, and you're going to be seeing all those different participants. And just to note that in the green box is the person who is speaking at that time. And you might notice here, there's my name, I'm muted, so you can start to get a sense of some of these symbols that are similar to doing it on your desktop computer. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about some of the toolbar functions that you'll find in Zoom on a smartphone. So you might be familiar that on a smartphone, on an iPad, that toolbars may disappear. And that does happen on Zoom on your computer as well. So if you leave your screen idle for a moment, if you don't touch it or do anything with your mouse, that you'll notice that the Zoom functions disappear. So on your smartphone, what you need to do is take your finger and you might just tap on a blank part of the screen, and that's going to activate your toolbars. So I like to find kind of a middle zone, you know, somewhere that has like a black area that's probably not going to hit a button of some sort and take me anywhere else. So I'm just looking for kind of a blank part of my screen. I'm going to take my finger and tap on that so that it will activate all of these functions, all of these toolbars. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the difference. If you can look at this and see all these options here, I'm going to go back to the page prior. So see how there's nothing here? That's because it's more of an idle screen and I haven't touched it in a little while. Okay, so I need to activate those toolbars by touching a blank part of the screen. So let's talk about some of these functions. So up in the top left-hand corner, it looks like a little speaker and sound coming out of it. So if you were to click on that, it's going to toggle between two options. So it's either your speaker phone, so you can hear what's going on without putting the phone up to your ear, or it's going to click to the earpiece option. Okay, so you have that option. Say you're in a situation where you don't want the meeting to be heard by a bunch of people, you want to keep it more private, you can actually hit that little speaker button, put it up to your ear, and just hear it that way. Right next to it is a little phone, or not a phone, what is that? It's a camera. So the camera gives you the option of two different views. So you might know on your smartphone, you've got a camera facing you, which would be the front-facing selfie camera, and then there's also a camera on the back of your phone, which faces away from you. So there's two different options. You can toggle back and forth between those. There'd be really not much of a reason for you to ever have the camera pointing away from you. So that's why I've put that in red here, is that you really want that selfie view so we can see your face. Now, going toward the bottom of the screen, you'll see that video camera, and that's your video start and stop button. And because this is my phone, you'll see that my video is activated and then my mute is on. Yep. So if I had a red line right here on this video camera, then you would not be able to see me. So you just need to kind of get used to those two options there. And then right next to that is the microphone, which is mute and unmute. So you have that option to stay muted for most of the meeting, and then if somebody needs to say something, then they can unmute themselves by clicking or tapping on that microphone. Okay, moving around, so that green button in the middle, share content. That's something that is not really necessary for someone attending a meeting. That would be more important for someone who is running a meeting and maybe sharing a screen or sharing music or sharing a video. So I know it's very tempting to want to click on that green button for people, but it is there, but it's probably not going to be utilized by your group members very often. Next to that is the participants pane. So if you click on the participants pane, participants button, then you're going to get a brand new screen. So this is the pictures were going to go away, and then this is what you're going to see. So you have a very similar situation as when you're on a desktop version of a Zoom meeting. So you're going to see a list of attendees, and you'll get some more information. I'm a co-host, so that is mentioned there. You can see the mute option here, the mute button, and these two people, these are the two speakers, so they are unmuted. You'll notice the video cameras here. If the video camera is gray, then it is activated and they can be seen. If I want to be disguised or not disguised, but if I just want to not show my picture, then that will be indicated right there. So this is just very similar to what you see when you do a desktop version of a Zoom meeting. And so that should be quite familiar to you. Now, next to the participants button, you'll see that ellipsis and more. So that's like the more menu. And if you hit that, this is what you're going to see on your screen. And there's really just one function that I want to point out to you, which is the chat. Okay, so if I were to hit chat, then this is what pops up for me. Okay, so you'll see different comments from other people, and then similar to what you're familiar with on your computer, you're going to enter your personal chat here and then send it for everyone to see. And you do have that option right here where it says everyone in blue and then the little caret. If you were to click on that, it's going to open up all the various participants and you can send a private message as well. Okay, and then the last function here is at the very top right hand corner. So this red leave button is how you are going to leave the meeting. Pretty self-explanatory. Okay, moving on. And these are just a couple of random things, good to know, not super important, but just wanted to go ahead and give you as much information as I can. So you'll notice at the very top in the center, it says Zoom, and then there's a little caret for something to pop up, like a little menu. And so basically what pops up are the meeting details. So again, not that important, but that's what happens if you do click on that Zoom at the top of your screen there. Now, I explained a little earlier how you might want to escape from Zoom to do something else on your phone, such as find an email. You can do that at any time in your meeting, and you can get back to the Zoom meeting by tapping on that green line at the top of your screen. So this is kind of like your placeholder for your Zoom meeting, and all you need to do is just touch on it and it'll take you back and you'll be able to see the speaker and the participants like you had before. And then this is just an example of what it would look like if you were to hit the rear facing camera. So it's just whatever you're seeing in front of you, and so that's not too exciting. You want to make sure and keep that selfie view so we can see your faces. All right, so here are just a few tips that I thought would be helpful. I'm sure most of us have been on some Zoom meetings where people are on a little bit more mobile devices, either an iPad or a cell phone, and they just happen to be moving a lot and walking around, and then you might get a little dizzy when you're seeing that. So it's a little bit distracting. So my recommendation is to really keep your phone as still as possible during the meeting so everyone can just stay focused and not be distracted by what's going on in your background. And so how do we do that? You can invest in a phone holder or a stand or even what's called a pop socket for your table or your desk. And that's just a tool to help you keep your phone still. So I just did a little search online, and here's an example of a holder that can be used for both a cell phone like this, and then you can see it can also be used for an iPad. So it's basically just a way for you to keep that phone at an angle so you can be seen, you can see what's going on, and then it just stays nice and still. Now this is what's called a pop socket. I don't personally own one of these, but I see a lot of people who have them. And it's called that because this guy right here, it affixes to the back of your phone or your phone case. It's an adhesive sort of thing. And this little gadget right here, it can pull out and then be pushed back in, a little bit like an accordion. So it you have the option to keep it more flat, or you can pop it out, and then you might notice, say you happen to fumble a lot with your slippery finger kind of situation, you're able to put your fingers around this. Yeah, so Rachel just showed. Yeah, so you can have the pop socket in between your fingers like this, and it's just an extra way to keep that phone nice and secure. But then you'll see too that it has another function of you're able, if it's placed properly on your phone, you can use it as a little stand. Okay, so that's just another option. Now, I like to DIY personally. I like to do it myself and maybe not spend a lot of money on extra gadgets. So um, my makeshift stand, I used a thicker book and the thin book, and I just need to make sure not to cover the camera. So you'll see that I have my little cell phone in here. It's sideways, and I have a thicker book behind it so that it has something to lean against. And then I have this thin book in front so that it can be shoved in between and then it won't slide. But what I'm going to make sure of is that I can see the screen so I can see what's going on, but then right here is where my camera is. So I also want to make sure not to cover the camera. Okay. So I would recommend that having this sideways orientation is helpful for two reasons. You can keep your charger connected during the meeting and just make sure you don't run out of juice. So that's helpful. And then say you might have two people who want to take part in the meeting, maybe a care partner, or just two people sitting next to each other, so that orientation is going to allow for a wider view, so both people's faces can fit in the screen a little bit better than if it's in that vertical orientation. Okay, so troubleshooting audio and video settings. So I mentioned earlier that it's very important when those permission screens pop up that you say it's okay for Zoom to access your camera and your microphone. So some of your group members may have already attempted to, they've already downloaded Zoom, they've already attempted to join with their smartphone, but maybe they're having issues not being able to be seen or heard. It's probably because they chose the wrong option on those permission screens. So this is a way of getting into your phone from the back end and then fixing that issue, okay? So you're going to start from your phone's home screen and you're going to look for your settings. And from what Rebecca told me, it's very similar on an Android. So you'll see this little gear symbol here. This is where all my settings for my phone live. So I'm going to click or tap on that. And so my settings pop up here. And what I want to do is scroll down this menu to find my list of applications. Okay, so I'm going to scroll way at the bottom. They usually live at the bottom of this whole list. So I'm going to scroll way down, depending on how much you have on your phone. And you're going to look for Zoom. So Zoom, because it's Z and it's alphabetical order, it's usually going to be at the very bottom of your apps list. So I locate Zoom down there, and then I see that little arrow going to the right. I'm going to click on that so that I can open up my Zoom settings. And this is what comes up here. So you'll notice the calendar is not as important. That would allow people to save meetings for a future date, sort of thing. The main things we want to look at are the microphone and the camera, okay? So we want to make sure that those are enabled, and so we want to make sure that those toggles are to the right and that there's that green symbol there saying that yes, in fact, these are enabled and they're not turned off, okay? So that's like a little troubleshooting thing that you can do if people are continuing to have those issues with audio and video settings. So this
And
is
Shannon,
just my,
is
yes.
it okay for me to add real quick in terms of those settings that you just shared?
Yeah.
We get this a lot if somebody can hear but they can't see, or they can see but they can't hear. It's usually, and especially on I've gotten this especially in Fire tablets and Androids, but also iPhones. When they first installed the application, they didn't give the permissions. You know how it says Zoom needs access to your camera or Zoom needs access to your phone? That's what that's asking about, and that's how you can fix that if somebody accidentally just, we're so quick on the draw, right? We just say no to everything or we say yes to everything. There's so I just wanted to add that's what this specifically is about.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. That's a way you can ensure on your own phone and for your group members that they have the settings right so that they can be heard and seen. Okay. So I just want to get through a couple of these things and then we can answer questions. So again, I'm always available via email for any ideas for future trainings and any feedback. Um, in the follow-up email for today, you'll receive a PDF of all of the slides. So they are quite dense, but I'm hoping because it's just sort of a left to right, more of an instruction manual, boom, 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 step 1 through 5, that sort of thing, that it will make sense for people just to make sure that they're going through the right process. And then we'll have a link to this recording. So if you needed to refer back to anything, you can do that. And then I'm going to also send a link to a survey that we are conducting right now. Hopefully you've already seen something about it. It didn't get lost. And it's just really going to help us moving forward, not only with our online programs that we're offering, the trainings we're doing for you, but also into the future, what it's going to look like as hopefully COVID situation changes and we're going to be starting to meet back in person. What is it that you're looking for as far as resources and support? So that will be super helpful. So I'll send that link to you, and if you could fill that out, that would be great. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then we can do some Q&A.
We did have a question a moment ago from Ben. He's asking how you change the background of video, I guess, on the phone, if there's a capability to do that.
Let's see, virtual background on a phone. I believe, and Rachel and Rebecca, it might be, you might have to sign in order to make that happen. Is that your understanding?
Let me look into that. So my understanding, so I think as some of you have noticed, like virtual background doesn't even always work on computers, you know, because there's no green screen. So I actually don't know if there's the functionality for it. I'm gonna check really quick, but I think it's just the desktop client. Hold on, let me just double check that.
Sure, and that brings up a point.
Oh,
where,
actually, sorry, I did figure it out when you have it.
why don't I, yeah, I'm just gonna
Yeah, you go
mention
first
one
and then
thing, and then, yeah, so today's session was all about how to join a meeting without needing to sign in to any sort of account. Okay, so we're trying to make it as easy as possible for people. So if you were to sign in and you had your own account, you would have many more back end technical options and settings that you can play with. But what we went through today is just a very basic, how do people just get on to a meeting on their smartphone. So I just wanted to make that clear. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Sure, I'm double checking so you can see I'm like logging in right now. Let's see. Okay, so you actually don't need to log in on the phone. So what you do, if I don't know if any of you are on the phone, but let me see if I can. So I'm gonna send us, oh, let me actually share my screen. That'll be easier.
Yeah, I see you from your phone.
Yep. So there is a virtual background option. See, and I haven't logged in. Let me see. Let me close out of this. All right, so I'm going to share my screen real quick because the Zoom has great help topics on their website, and this is where I found it. So, okay, right here. So can you see my screen? And there's a picture of a girl right in the middle. So when you're on the phone, so it says sign into the Zoom mobile app. You actually don't have to sign in. That worked without me signing in at all. Okay. If you go down to this more button on your phone, it says tap to add virtual background. And it really is right in the list of more. There's like a couple of options. So you click virtual background. And then just like on the computer, there are pictures. And so you can even add your own virtual background. And then you just press close and it looks like it works on the phone. I didn't actually think it was a function of the phone, but it shows that I had no idea what I was talking about, apparently.
Well, it works out sometimes. So,
yeah.
So Ben, you'll have to let us know how that works for you. Okay, and it looks like Nancy might have a question. You want to unmute yourself, Nancy? So you're still muted. There you go.
I'm on my Apple laptop, but I brought up my phone, which is an i8, just to kind of take myself through your instructions. I went to the settings, I went to Zoom, I opened it up. I do not have a video or camera option. I have calendars, Siri and search, notifications, background app refresh, and cellular data.
An
Now,
iPhone 8.
I'm not logged in on Zoom through my phone, but those are the only, going back to your instructions for making sure camera and audio and the camera are on. That's probably the main thing I have with people when they come on with their phone. So I just figured, well, I'd go to mine, and I'm not even seeing the option.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because I also have an iPhone 8 and I'm seeing it. And you said you're not signed in on your phone, which is fine, but you have the app downloaded on your phone at least.
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
And you scroll. So when you go to your settings,
If you can see this or not, but this may be in reverse view, huh?
that's
Yeah,
okay.
No, it's right.
I see what you're seeing.
that's all I've got. That's it for settings.
Wow.
It's in the phone
Question:
setting.
is your phone? Just a question. I was asked this: is your phone updated? Like, is it has
Oh, yeah.
the most operating?
Oh, yeah.
Let me look into that because, like I said, on my iPhone 8, I see that. So I'm wondering why that's not showing up.
Right. Me too. That just to me seems like.
Do you
Of
see,
course, of
Rebecca?
course.
We just got a little message from Ben. He said you need to be a registered user for the camera setting. I'm not sure what that means.
Oh, meaning, Ben, are you meaning that you need to be logged in on Zoom on your phone?
Yes.
Yes.
Interesting, because I'm not logged in on mine either.
Let me see what
That's a
happens.
good question, Nancy. If we don't figure it out today, I'll do some research and get back to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Is anyone else having that issue? Just as it looks like Don has his hand up. Do you want to unmute yourself, Don?
Yeah, the thing I'm wondering about is I do not have the calendar. I have everything else that you spoke about, but I do not have a calendar. I don't know why that would be.
Okay, well, it's not super important if the calendar is there unless you're a stickler about making sure every meeting goes into a certain calendar for you to be able to keep track. I never use that option personally. Maybe it's because you don't have an active calendar that you use currently that's in the phone that it could connect to. That could be an option.
Have you used it?
Have
Have
I?
you used the calendar ever? In
I
other words,
have
have you put in a meeting for the future?
I have not done it that way. No.
Okay, then I thought maybe it would appear if you had scheduled something for the future, but I don't know.
I see. Well, again, we're not going into a Zoom account. We're not signing in per se. We're just joining a meeting from a link that we've received. So that could be an option if you were to have a Zoom account, sign into it, and then create a calendar invite from that end. But that's not how, we're not going that deep today, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Nancy, is that your
Yeah,
hand? Yep.
so I went to join through the app on my phone, and up comes join a meeting. I have to enter the meeting ID. My name is beneath. Then the option would be to join, but beneath that it says join options. Don't connect to audio. Turn off my video. So those are both in a off position now, meaning I would interpret it as meaning my audio and my video will automatically come up unless I choose at the time I'm joining to not allow it.
That sounds correct.
That is what that means. It's more just, and I think you've experienced this, Nancy, is somebody, even if that is turned off, if they didn't give permissions on the phone originally, but yeah, and we can also reach out. We have some, like a account executive over at Zoom as well. So if we can't figure this out on our own, we'll reach out to him and see if they can give us some reasoning why that's not showing up for you in your settings. So that
I'm back at my settings. I haven't joined technically yet on the Zoom, and it's the way I described it before. So certainly at the time of joining, it appears to be an option for me.
Through Zoom and not your phone settings.
I didn't hear that.
Through the Zoom,
Right.
not through the phone's settings.
I didn't hear what you said before that. What you're saying that you would do it through the Zoom setting, not the phone setting. That's what it's showing. Right. I don't have that option in my phone to do it at the beginning beforehand.
Right. I don't think that it is going to be in your phone settings. I think it only is going to appear in the actual Zoom application.
But then how did Shannon have it in her phone settings?
I think we're talking about two different things. So the one on the app is everybody sees that. Regardless, it's just a functionality of the app. So if you gave the app permission at the beginning, that is always an option, so that like when I join a meeting, I can say, oh, you know what? I haven't showered yet today. I'm going to turn off my camera. So I don't just jump into the meeting with my video on, or, maybe I'm yelling at my cat and I don't want anyone hearing me yell at him, so I don't connect to audio. So that is always in the app. The settings piece is only supposed to be if somebody is having, like, those buttons don't even work for them, because like they can turn them on and off, but it doesn't affect their video in the call. Again, it would just be a permission. Apple is like super into security. So I actually think the fact that Nancy's not seeing it, I saw Judy Reynolds, you said that maybe she needs to reinstall Zoom. That may be a thing, that maybe it just needs to be reinstalled. Sometimes there are glitches like that. So it's something to try. It probably would be the first thing I would try. And if that doesn't work, like I said, to me, that's some sort of glitch, because Apple is all about asking for permission. So if you have the most up-to-date iOS, your app's updated, then there's something else going on that we would need to figure out. But I think that's going to be the minority to the majority of what, like, usually when we walk people through those steps, that is the answer for the problem of, even if I try to unmute my mic on the call, it does not unmute no matter what I do. It's a security issue. It's a permissions issue. No matter what I do, every time I try to start my video, it does not turn on. It's a permissions issue. Does that answer it? But like I said, I think it's just two different things.
Yeah, I'm at the app I'm at the Apple Store right now, and what I'm finding is there are umpteen different options for Zoom.
Correct.
So then that stops me going, okay, I better download the correct one, and that's where I'm at right now, is trying to figure out which one.
I think the correct one, I think you had it at the beginning, Shannon, it's Zoom Cloud Meetings.
It's Cloud Meetings.
Cloud Meetings, all right.
You're right, though. There are like so many different Zoom options, so it can be confusing for someone.
Are we to question and answer yet?
Yes. Do you have a question, Roger?
Is there a feature? Can I push my space bar on my smartphone like on my laptop? If I'm on muted, it will just when I hold the space bar down, I unmute and then let off the space bar and I mute it again. Does that work the same thing on smartphones? I've not ever tried it yet.
My understanding, Roger, is that it's just a tappable option. So you have your microphone icon and it's either on or off, as opposed to when you have a nice big keyboard and your space bar is there and it's an easy hit, to unmute yourself. Unfortunately, on a phone, we don't have that keyboard option. So you have to be a little bit more specific with where you tap and make sure and hit that microphone, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was just a handy thing on a laptop.
Yeah, it's different for sure.
Thanks.
You're welcome. And I've gotten a question about privacy, whether we are concerned with privacy issues that personal data can be collected. So that's not my area of expertise. So Rebecca, I think if you wouldn't mind addressing that.
Yes, of course. So one thing I can say is that, especially over the last 3 months, I know there was a lot of concerns at the beginning about Zoom and privacy and all of that, but what's the word? But basically, they've said that that's what they're focusing on. They're not creating new features, they're not creating anything. They are just focusing on privacy. And you should know that like the information that can be collected is really minimal and really depends on what Zoom link that you're on. So for us, we don't really know, like there's really not that much information that it's collecting. It's no more than what you would have like Google or Facebook or any of these other big social media, cell phone companies, etc. Probably take more information than Zoom does. So personally, I'm not concerned. Privacy but regardless, you should always be vigilant about your privacy online. That is obviously something that thankfully that conversation is happening, because a lot of those companies do take that data. And one of the benefits of a company kind of getting that kind of bad press is that they are sort of forced to fix those problems versus other companies who kind of just do it anyway, and you wouldn't have any idea.
Hopefully that answers your question. Yes, I see Richard. You have your hand up if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Hi,
There we
thank
go.
you. Took me a second. Sometimes I go to a Zoom exercise class and I'm looking mostly at the teacher leading the exercise, which is fine because I want her on the big full screen. I have an iPhone 8 Plus too. And when we finish up, sometimes we like to have little group chats just to stay more personally in touch with one another. And what I found is that sometimes during those chats, I'll still just see the big picture of my teacher. If I do that thing of scrolling from right to left, I can get 4 people at a time, but that's so cumbersome to try and see the person who's speaking. By the time I find them in a series of 4-person grids, they won't be talking anymore. And it seems to me that occasionally I've had it so that it just always automatically switches to the full screen being whomever is talking at the time, if you know what I mean. And I can't figure out how I ever got there because I don't find any controls that allow me to do that.
That's a good point, Richard. And I'm wondering, and Rebecca and Rachel, you can back me up on this or not. So I'm wondering if your teacher from his or her end is spotlighting themselves or pinning themselves in a way where they will always stay the focus, the large speaker view. So they're controlling it from their end. And then perhaps once they're finished teaching and it's time for Q&A, they're going to unspotlight themselves. And so anyone who is currently speaking and has the green box, it's going to shift. And so that person's face is going to come to your speaker view. And that's
as a full screen. Okay.
Correct.
So if I'm just seeing my teacher and have this cumbersome thing of swiping from right to left, I should ask my teacher personally, like maybe tap to unmute myself and ask her if she can take herself off of the spotlight.
Correct.
Is the new position have a name too, or no? If you're not on spotlight, are you on something else?
Oh, it's just speaker view.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's called speaker view.
Yeah, if you just ask, go ahead.
take herself off of spotlight to speaker view. Or just
Yes.
take herself off spotlight.
That
Exactly.
would be plenty. That makes sense. And
Okay,
so,
okay.
yeah, that should help.
That should maybe get me what I'm looking for.
Mhm.
Because maybe those few times when I have had it happen that way, the speaker, the host of the meeting has known to take herself off of
Spotlight.
spotlight. I'm gonna write that word down.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm gonna give that a try.
Okay, sounds good. Let us know how it goes.
I sure will. And sorry, I
Okay.
didn't quite prepare for the meeting that well myself, but I let the camera go on anyway.
We're
So,
all learning, believe me.
okay, great, thank you.
So I got a question from Myra earlier about adding a background picture. So I would think that it's similar to how it is on a computer, where you might have a photo roll or a photo collection on your phone, and you'd be able to connect that to Zoom. So I'd have to look at that specifically, Myra, to see what that looks like, and we can talk if you want. But I've never done it myself. So I would assume it's just something, a photo that exists on your phone currently. Let's see, there was something about.
Karen asked about an Android running the same,
Yes.
and if there's directions for both. I'm led to believe that generally speaking, the Android and the iPhone would work very similarly once you've downloaded Zoom. So buttons may be in different places, but I think that you'll find the same buttons.
The same functionality, yeah. Rebecca, you have an Android, right? Okay.
No, I have an Apple, but I have had Androids in the past, and I have had Kindle Fires, which runs the Android operating system. And we actually did some research for our staff because we had the same question. Most of us use iPhones, or maybe we use an Android but not an iPhone. Honestly, the apps are almost identical. The things that are different are so small, it does not affect functionality, and they're more just like nitpicky things, like, I don't know, like things in the, like where in the settings, there might be like an extra option on an Android or an iPhone that just has to do with the Android operating system. But otherwise, the interface, everything is pretty much identical.
Great. Thank
And,
you.
and
so
Nancy is raising her
Karen,
hand. Sorry.
Oh, I'm replying to Rebecca now. Okay, so I've downloaded the new Zoom. I signed in, and I also have a Zoom account, so I hope I haven't undone my Zoom account by doing that. But anyway, my settings on my phone still do not allow me. In fact, now there are fewer options than there were before. But if I am in the Zoom for phone and I hit the little bolt-like icon in the upper left corner of the screen, I hit that, and then I go to meetings. Then I have an option, always mute my microphone, but it's turned off in its standard settings, and always turn off my video, which is also off in the standard settings. And it also show video preview, mirror my video, show non-video participants. There's multiple options here.
Yep, and those options are, again, true for everyone. Everybody has those options. And it's one of those things, so if you click on those, that means that anytime you go into a program, that those things will be turned off. It's actually still not the permissions on the phone thing. And I'm going to look into this because I hate when I don't understand why something's not working. So we are going to get to the bottom of it. But yes, that actually is great that you saw that, because those are meeting options, or options that somebody could. But still, like, even if you like always mute your microphone, always turn off your camera, if you enter the program, you still have the option to turn your camera on and to turn your microphone on, as long as you gave the permission to the app through the phone. So we will figure this out, Nancy. I'm committed.
Thank you.
yeah, it's frustrating because it's impossible for us to see, each other's
Right.
screen with Zoom, and that's what makes it so hard, is that we're talking, in ideal terms, that we're all looking at the same thing.
Experiencing is support group participants. Often it's a couple. they're trying to get on through their computer. They don't remember their password. I then bring them on through the phone. They forget the meeting ID, don't have the meeting ID. Then they don't know where their keypad is because now their phone's fallen asleep. So here's where you have to hit. Then they want to know where the pound sign is. I mean, it's literally step by step trying to take them through. And I think that's one of the reasons that some of the participants just are like, no, I can't do this. And I'm trying to smooth that path as best I can, so that they're not intimidated by it. Because after and I'm in San Diego, after our most recent support group leaders interface, and we will be coming up with policy relative to the pandemic, and so that it's consistent for all the leaders throughout the county in terms of how we proceed. And I would say Zoom is going to become our new best friend for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time. So I really want to help those, particularly those of our participants who reside in residential care facilities. That's where I've seen the biggest drop off in participation. And so I'm trying to figure out what's the most user-friendly way to encourage their participation. And I would suspect, if I'm going to have any luck, they'll be on a phone, probably less likely to be on a computer or a laptop. And even if they have it, more likely to have difficulty maneuvering it, probably the phone too. So I'm just trying to figure out a way to do that. And one of the questions that has come up in our group, and every group leader's handling it differently, is how many levels of security do we need to have in place? Like, do they have to register every time? Do they have to, do we need the password in addition to the waiting room? I'm probably right now in the group in the community, the most lax, in that I have a waiting room and I have different groups. The link for each group remains the same, but the links between the groups are different. Right now, I don't have a password, and yet my husband's who's the person with Parkinson's, we have very Zoomified right now through the week, has in every situation, it's different. And I'm madly trying to come up with a system where I dump it into the calendar. It's shared on his calendar. If I'm busy in this Zoom meeting and his caregiver wants to try and hook on, that I'm not having to leave the meeting, run over there, try and get it set up. There are multiple layers, and I'm in a fortunate situation where I have somebody helping me. But how about everybody out there that does not? So I'm trying to develop a really streamlined system, and that's why when you mentioned the phone, I thought, okay, well, let me do it on mine, and of course, then immediately ran into a glitch.
Right. Oh, well, thank you, Nancy.
But better now too than
Yeah.
than when someone else.
Right.
I think you're echoing, or you're, expressing very similar concerns and frustrations as others on the call today, and that's where we're trying to help as well. So, with today's tutorial, just trying to figure out, okay, how can we make this as simple as possible for people, a step by step. The question about, well, Androids might be different. Okay, so maybe that means I need to find an Android from a friend and I need to do this whole process and then do a new tutorial just so I know, because I've never owned one. I don't even know what it looks like. So there's that. iPads, they look completely different. I'm gonna have to maybe do a separate one for iPads. And now I'm wondering too, you're asking what's the most easy, streamlined way for folks who are maybe not as technically proficient to get on. Perhaps it's an audio call-in, a landline. Mm-hmm. If that is okay for people, would they get anything out of it? Just having the voices, is that enough? And there is a way to do that, and we can have a very I can work on an instruction page on how to dial in and then press the ID in and the password and just have it be as simple as possible. That would be the easiest way. And maybe, you know, that's step one. And then after getting used to that, then we can maybe try the next more complicated
I
step.
have had people come on via phone only. And what I'm finding is that they are the ones I think they feel like they're not quite at the party, for lack of a better description. The lack of visual is difficult in that it's like you're not at the party. And
Yeah.
so I find they try it once, maybe twice, and then they don't call back. Then they'll call me personally to talk. That's what I'm finding.
Sure.
Rather than, and then I'm like, okay, but I can't be doing that constantly. And yet I don't want to shut the door on them.
Right, right. I see Karen has her hand up. Do you want to unmute yourself, Karen? There you go.
I'm with Nancy. I run the support groups in Santa Fe, and we know we're going to be doing this at least through the end of the year, and we don't know what next year looks like. So I think the more ways we can connect people to our groups and the more avenues we give to them, the better off we're going to be. If they can only come in by phone and it's a meeting where we're going to be having a doctor present, I think it's crucial that they know what button do you push for this? What button do you push, to unmute yourself? All those, what we consider basic, simple stuff. But when you're dealing with somebody who, hasn't had to do this before, this is a new thing for them. So, the easiest way we can do it. And then anytime I have anything that's shown on the screen, I email it out to my group as a whole, so that even if you came in by phone, you're going to get all the handouts that were shown in the shared screen. But we're going to be doing this for a long time, folks. So, we got to figure out how's the best way to reach everybody in the group.
Great point, Karen. And that's it, access for everyone. So
one thing I wanted to share that we're finding, San Diego has several exercise classes currently online, including Rocksteady Boxing, and we've learned that one of the programs here in town, Rocksteady Boxing Downtown, has the largest population in the nation right now, coming on at more than 50 per time. And he's now gone from 2 days a week to 5 days a week, 10:30 to 11:45. What we're finding is that the people who are in that group, obviously he's been very successful. Right now, the next thing that's happened is the women have broken off. They participate in Rocksteady Boxing Zoom, but now they're forming their own kind of social Zoom group, separate from leaders. And it's been fascinating to watch and see how they're kind of taking the initiative to have their own kind of girls hangout, social cocktail hour, whatever, coffee clatch after Zoom. And so now the guys are kind of like, oh, well, what are we going to do? So interesting dynamic, and motivated because of that camaraderie, that team feeling, that they're running off on their own. Forget the support group leaders. I've always said, gosh, if we could, work ourselves right out of a job, that would be great. Well, it's a really interesting dynamic that's happening.
That's great to hear,
Yeah.
because that is like the unknown of this new time we're living in. Like, wow, okay, that's, and we're talking about people who, might be of an older age group, and so that they're taking it into their own hands, which is so awesome to hear.
We had talked about, another psychologist and I had been talking about running a live lunch and learn support group for the care partners of people with Parkinson's and dementia, calling it not a dementia support group, but a cognition support group that was going to happen at a restaurant near live boxing. But we were planning it right as sheltering in occurred. And what I see now is that the boxers themselves are like, oh, forget you guys, we're going to go do our own thing, which is really, in my opinion, very healthy. And so maybe I need to call them and find out how to work my phone on. They may already know.
Right. We can always learn from others. So yeah,
Right.
but I appreciate hearing just the anecdotes, just what's happening in different communities, and that helps me to understand where to take this program next.
There was
So
also somebody who mentioned, Nancy, why don't you see if someone at the facilities can help them? The sheltering in was so dramatic, for lack of a better word. They were not allowed to have any connectivity. Everything was by email initially. I've got to check back with the activity leaders, but you know, and I said, hey, can we do something there where you could, you know, maybe have the screen in your theater? And then he laughed and he said, Nancy, we're not getting together at all.
yeah,
Everybody is sheltering in their own room.
rooms, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so hard right now. And I think, you know, depending on where you live, I've been hearing different things about the regulations in each place. So it's, yeah, that's a tough one. And we'll all, I think, need to troubleshoot or brainstorm different ideas on reaching these people who live in the um, senior living communities. So that's hard. I see, Allie, you have your hand raised?
Yes, I was going back to what Nancy said earlier about not being part of the group if you couldn't have the visual. The important part about visual, I think, is when my baby sister was having trouble because of her hearing, we Skyped because she could see the speaking as she was listening. Telephones were terrible for her.
Sure.
So with a, my hearing is going now too, but with our older population, with the hearing going, we do need to see each other.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just more communication, more connection
Yeah.
as well, when you can see and have some body language coming through, some facial expressions, that sort of thing. So I agree. In my thinking, and you can let me know if I'm on the right track, but just I need to make more tutorials about different devices, the Android, the iPad, how you would call in with a regular phone. Judy mentioned, yes, there are long distance charges if you're on an old school landline, because you know we're so used to cell phones these days and it doesn't cost anything, but regular phone lines do. So there is a lot. I feel like that could be my next step, is just to go through those different devices and hopefully clarifying them. So Nancy, you have issues. I'm like, okay, well that makes me need to look into a technical problem, and that can be included in the tutorial in the future, sort of thing. So just thinking on the spot here. I've got two hands, and then we'll probably have to pop off. But I see Don has his hand up, and then we'll do Myra. So Don, there we go.
I just wanted to comment that as I'm sitting here looking at this, I'm thinking we should have maybe some bull sessions between leaders and identify where we're located and so on. Like most of the people probably here are in California. I'm in Pennsylvania.
I'm in Indiana.
So we're all over, and things are different. I've done exactly what you're talking about. I sent out emails listing every possible way you could dial in with a step-by-step way to do it. And no more response than the same 10 people, 10 computers. Let's say it this way. Not, you know, sometimes there's two people, husband and wife team, but they don't, in our area, the older people simply have nothing to do with any of this stuff, and they will not participate. And where we had a group of 50 people at most every meeting, we meet once a month. Now we have, if we're lucky, 10 to 12 screens, which means we're getting 17 or 18 people. There are advantages because we have a former leader that lives 200 miles away now and is back participating because of Skype or because of Zoom.
Right.
But that's the exception to the rule.
Sure.
I was wondering, even when we do get back, if we couldn't continue
Yeah.
Zoom in addition to the regular way of doing things. But like I said, a bull session with people in various parts of the country talking about they think you might get more people. It even crossed my mind, it just flashed across my mind that maybe what we need to do is go to the house and set it up for them somehow. I don't know, but
Yeah. But it's like
So-
with COVID, that's the hard part, is like we're supposed to
Right.
stay apart.
And
We do have, Rebecca, you want to talk about the volunteers?
so I was going to say the volunteers, but also just so you know, Don, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's something that like we're talking about internally as well, like the bull sessions, like you said, like how do we get all these support group leaders together to just talk about like, how do we navigate what we don't know? And I love coming on these because each of you come with such great advice for one another, and you're all experiencing things together. And so just know that that is something that is in the works. And then the other piece is, yes, we do have these tech volunteers. So in the meantime, in terms of getting people online, we can actually set them up with a volunteer to give them a phone call. Like even like I've done some of these too myself, where sometimes you just have to call someone and walk them through because you can't see because you're not on Zoom, right? But so we have some volunteers. If you are interested, email Shannon. Is that okay? They can just reach out to you. And then Shannon, we have somebody else managing those volunteers specifically, but Shannon can get those connections made. I think the one thing we would just need to know is obviously the best way to reach that individual and a good time to reach them. So if you're already talking to someone who might need something like that, if you could gather that information, that would be really helpful.
And I've put my email address in the chat there. So you can email me at any time if you have someone who really needs some personal one-on-one help, because sometimes that's just what needs to happen, as we know.
Yeah.
Myra, I think I see your hand.
Yeah, that's what I meant, Nancy, about if maybe somebody at one of the facilities, I know at some points they're very, very busy and all, but it is the one-on-one, somebody being right there, because hey, these things are crazy. You know, I certainly have huge fears of them. And so if someone local to them can just get them started on it, that might be helpful.
Yeah.
It may not be something that you can do by talking, because I'm ready to throw the thing through the window sometimes. So, I
Not
am
alone.
coming from. And by the way, I'm in New Jersey, Don. So I'm on your side.
Yes, Judy.
One quick thing on my, I put it in chat also. We're starting to try to do little mini groups here. And I had a couple, 2 weeks ago, I had a couple from my support group who hadn't been able to get on. They came to my house with their iPad and sat back by my doors, safe distance. And I had my computer here, and they got on with me here. And now they're getting on from home. So we're trying to do that safely with maybe have 2 to 4 people in your home if you can safe distance them correctly. Have them come and sit with you and go to a meeting with you at your home. And then, they're seeing how it actually works. And then you can send them home with their, whatever they have, their iPad or phone, and then they're able to get on. So, because we've had the same problem, we've gone from 60 plus people in person to maybe 10 or 11 people online. So there's 50 people out there that we're not reaching anymore. Mm-hmm. So, that's one thing to think about. You have to be careful and pick people, are paying attention to the requirements of being healthy. But anyway, that's, something to think about.
Thank you, Judy. That's really thinking outside the box. It's great.
It wasn't my idea. It was somebody else's, but
who cares? You did it.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, another kudo for being on Zoom. And I want to thank your whole team. I had a major stroke a year ago, and a TIA 3 weeks ago.
Oh,
An advantage of being able to see the face is if I'm not able to be understood, people can watch my lips,
Yeah.
and that helps to understand what people are saying. So another big kudo. Thank you so much for all you're doing.
Thank you, Roger. Yeah. I'm glad this is
Note
helpful.
on that,
for
though.
everyone.
There are new masks. There are masks with plastic here because for people who are lip reading,
Yeah.
that's terrible.
Mhm.
Do you have one?
I've seen
mask
it
that-
online.
I've seen one, but I'm trying hard. I'm taking SLP therapy.
Good.
I don't like a mask. I'm considering removing my mustache so people can see my upper lip easier.
I can understand you very well, by the way.
Me too, yeah.
Thank you. Give me a big boost. I'm
No,
gonna
I
give you a virtual hug.
Thank you.
That's great. That's a good point, Roger. Thank you. Yes. So we need to think about audio for people who have trouble hearing, and then, adding that lip reading factor is super important. So good to remember.
We're
Well,
safer on here for lip reading than
that is for sure. Okay, well, we need to wrap up. We actually went over about 20 minutes, so maybe I should just stick to the hour-and-a-half format and not try to make us, get off in an hour. But thank you all. I'll be thinking on this stuff. Yes, and maybe we should do a bull session. Isn't that what you called it? And we can share ideas and move forward. So always open for new ideas and feedback. But thank you all. We'll get back to you, Nancy, on your specific issue, and then Ben, I think you and I might talk to you about Android. So thank you again.
And can I just add, Shannon, thank you guys for what you're doing for the people in your community. Seriously, like, you guys are the true boots on the ground, and you volunteer all of your time, and sounds like even more time just like helping people get connected. And I just think that's incredible. And I just have so much, I know our whole team feels this way. So seriously, thank you for everything you guys do all the time. Back to you.
I couldn't do it without the team from the Alliance, and especially Shannon helping our group individually. I congratulate all of you and thank all of you tremendously.
Thank you all too.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.